There's a monster that wants to bang you, and its name isn't Brett Kavanaugh. This is Spoilers.
Oh no!
Right
off the bat.
Welcome to Spoilers.
Swinging.
The show where we watch a movie and then goof and gaff on it for your enjoyment. My name is Money Mike, and I'm joined by my friends here. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. Going from east to west. So that would be
Brills. Brillsy Brett.
Oh yeah, it's Brett. Recording from Fort Wayne, Indiana. How y'all's doing?
Want to go next?
Yeah. This is Josh. Me and Mikey are so close. Had to kind of push him away from the mic to get in here. Quick funny story though is when Mikey got to my house, he had made this really weird ghost graphic, and I was had it on my phone and scared him with that in his window. It's a horror movie, and he was scared by his own.
Kind of scared the shit out of me.
And then he stepped out of the car telling me how he's all on edge because he was forced to watch because of his job, the whole Kavanaugh hearing today. So he has PTSD.
8 hours of it. So it was a fun time at work today. So that was Josh.
Hey!
Yeah. And next would probably be Stevie.
What's happening? Do you want me to answer anything or say anything outside of hi?
Too late.
Well,
No, that's fine.
I watched highlights of the Kavanaugh hearing today, and he seems like the worst human being in the world just based off him. So he'll probably get sworn in tomorrow, but he's an ass. I don't care anymore. Politics sucks.
Next up is Pap. Pap, how's it going?
It's good. I'm an apolitical pap, so I don't. Republicans listen to podcasts too. Michael Jordan.
Oh, this is off to a great start. Okay.
Republicans buy Nikes too.
So this movie is called It Follows, and it's about it's a monster movie. It's a stalker monster movie, but it's got kind of a twist in it, and it's a little controversial, I guess, but we're gonna get into that. But we start off with this opening scene of it's nighttime, and there's this girl just running out of her house in high heels, and she's running down the street, and she's kind of running past neighbors that are kind of doing stuff in the yard at night for some reason. But it's pretty vague, and there's not a lot of context going on, and she's absolutely terrified, and she ends up running to a beach and making a phone call to, is it her parents?
Her dad.
Her dad. And she's kind of apologizing or something. And the very next scene, what happens, Josh?
I think it cuts to morning, and it's a pull out of her body, and her leg is at a really weird angle, all nasty, broken, and she's all dead on the beach. She had some rough sex on the beach.
Oh, geez.
As we find out later in the movie.
She looks like she washed up on the beach, and she got kind of roughed up, and she's dead, obviously. And then after that, it's another cut to a new person, and this girl's name is Jay, and she's the protagonist of the movie. And Pap, do you want to describe Jay and what she's doing in this opening scene?
Well, give me a little reminder of what she's doing. I can definitely describe her, but I forget how we meet.
I think she's in the pool, right?
Yeah, one of many shots in the pool. Because she's hanging out, and we kind of establish her as a sexual figure right away. She's in college, she's in the pool, and she's got some neighbor kids creeping on her. They're looking over the fence, kind of peeping on her. She spends a lot of time in that above ground pool in her backyard. But
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
She seems nice, like a nice girl. She seems pretty cool. Pretty average college girl.
Yeah, it's an innocent scene, but it's the most innocent of implied, like, oh, this is kind of there's sexuality to this girl. These kids are into this girl. And it's like the most innocent form of sexuality. But it's implied, and that's kind of like the basis of the horror in this movie is it's a sexual monster or something.
The horror and the whore.
Yeah, her name's Jay, dude.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing. Paul and Yara here. I'm gonna watch a movie if you feel like it.
Actually, I'm going out tonight.
That guy? I like him.
Me too. I see you.
But
Did it seem like there's a line later where they like made a point of saying, "And she's so pretty." I felt like this
Yeah.
movie had to explain that this girl was like attractive or something. That was kind of weird.
It was the Myra girl, like, pretty early in the movie. She's like, your sister's so pretty.
She's annoyingly
Almost too pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jay walks into the house, and all of her friends are hanging out. For some reason, she's not hanging out with her friends. But they're watching a movie, and there's Yara, one of her sisters, I don't know her sister's name, and then their guy friend named Paul.
He's the worst.
He looks
Paul's
like
a
my
loser.
cousin Eric, for those of you who know him.
Yeah.
Well, good for Eric.
But they're watching a movie, and Jay comes in, and she kind of tells them that she has a date, and Paul has a kind of a glancing look at Jay, like he's kind of jealous. And then the next scene is
Wait.
Jay-
I want to talk about what they're doing in this scene too, because I think this is kind of interesting. Because they're like watching like super old monster movies, which they keep doing throughout the whole movie.
On a box TV.
It's a TV on a TV. They have a TV, and there's a box TV on top of that, and that's what they're watching.
Well,
And-
all of the TVs in this movie are really old. Jay has a TV in her room that's like ancient. So I don't know if that's like a...
Is this like an alternate universe? Because like the Kindle she was reading on was
The
like a
clam
little.
Yeah, I was going to make a point about that too.
It's like a
What is
sea
it, though?
conch shell or something.
I
Yeah, like
read that he wanted to
e-reader.
make the time somewhat ambiguous, and which kind of failed because the girl at the very beginning has like a modern cell phone. She has a new car. And like you said, the Yara girl has like a Kindle, but like everything else, the cars are old. The TVs are old.
Well, it wasn't just that, Brett. The director wanted to make it appear as like a dream, so things were out of place that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Like what else, Stevie?
Like cars that didn't line up with the times, like clothing that came from like the 80s, TVs that were obviously way too old, like movies that were from like the 50s,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was a combination of eras, so as to appear like from a dream.
Oh my gosh. I knew this director was going to be Roman Catholic roots before I looked him up, but this David Mitchell, his first like short film was about the Virgin Mary, so,
Interesting.
Sorry to like go off on a tangent
It's a
there,
theme
but
for him.
Why did you know he was going to be Roman Catholic roots?
because this movie's about sexual guilt so
Sexual
hard.
guilt.
It is.
Yeah. It is.
That's like the most blunt way to put it.
That's what's following.
Stevie, can you describe Jay's first date with, I think his name is Greg?
I thought it was Hugh.
Hugh?
Hugh.
It's he said his name is Hugh, but his real name, I think, no, it's not Greg.
Jackman. Jeff.
Hold on.
I kept calling him
Yeah,
Greg.
His name
Jeff.
is Jeff.
His fake identity is Hugh, but his name is
Jeff.
Oh, sorry, I
Played
didn't hear
by
you.
Jake Weary.
So anyway,
That's why everyone tuned into this pod.
Classic date hijinks. They go to the movies, and Jay brings up this stupid game that really had little interest in when she started talking about it. So they got in the theater, and
it's a dumb game.
It's a really dumb game. They talk about like switching places with someone else and why you'd switch with them. And Hugh is like, "What about that girl in the yellow dress?" And she starts looking, and she's like, "What girl in the yellow dress?" And Hugh looks really concerned, and you're like, "Oh, what the fuck is going on?"
Yeah,
and
I thought that was cool.
He freaks out, grabs her by the hand, he's like, "We gotta get out of here." Stupid reason. So then they go to a diner, and he was a little more settled down, but in the background we see a slow figure walking towards the window, and I was like, "He's got a gun!" But it never happened. It never happened. So they go to an abandoned parking lot. Classic date stuff. And this is when the movie really kicks off, because Jay decides to be a hoe and have sex in the back seat.
Yeah,
and that's
keep in mind that this guy walking in the background is like a recurring theme as well. There's always, if you look closely enough, you can see somebody walking in the background in a lot of scenes in this movie.
It's like a Shaun of the Dead zombie extra, always one of them. It's like, where's Waldo? It's pretty great.
There's actually, there's like a day that passes in between those two dates, so I don't know if anything important happens, but
nothing important happens, I don't think. Like, they recap, it's kind of like an exposition sequence where they talk about, "Oh, have you banged him yet?" And she's like, "No." And then, we see her at the college.
And then the next day is their second date. And like Stevie said, they end up going into this abandoned parking lot and having sex. And then, what was his name? Jeff, we said?
Hugh Jeff.
Hugh Jeff.
Hugh Jeff.
Yeah. Hugh Jeff. Walks to the back and gets something out of his trunk. And Jay's kind of like talking in riddles or something to herself.
She's being so annoying right there.
Exposition no one cares about.
Yeah. This movie is a lot of that. There's a lot of weird dialogue, and a lot of it is so slow and meaningless it doesn't really offer anything to the plot. But she's kind of talking to herself, and Jeff is doing his own thing, and then he sneaks up behind her, and what does he do, Josh?
Dude, he does her dirty, and he Carly Anthony's her in the back seat with chloroform.
That's not the name.
And
Casey Anthony, I thought.
Why do you always do this?
Man, I don't want to dox her. Anyways.
She's dead. It's okay.
No, she's not.
Oh.
Oh, my. Edit point.
No, it's staying.
You're the king of saying edit point.
So Hugh Jeff jumps on her on the back seat, and you can hear he's like clinking around in the trunk. And I was thinking, oh, he's getting like some liquor. But then the way they're setting up like her monologue, I was like, is he going to like chop her head off?
I thought he was going to shoot himself, but I didn't know how the story was going to be at the time, but I was wrong, obviously.
He jumps on top of her as if to cuddle, but then just like puts the chloroform on her, and it's pretty disturbing. He like knocks her out.
Classic Hugh.
Yeah. He knocks her out. He knocks her out, and then I guess the rattling in the trunk was a wheelchair that Jeff had brought. And Jay is strapped to this wheelchair.
I also record the podcast in a wheelchair, though, for those of you listening at home.
He really does.
So Jay is strapped to this wheelchair, and Hugh Jeff is explaining the situation to her that now follows Jay around after they have sex, because apparently this monster, once you have sex with a person, will follow you very slowly and try to either eat you or just split you in half or something. Not really sure. Or just suck the life out of you.
I like how he makes it really clear. It's like one of those horror movies where it just walks slow. Like, he makes a point.
So Jeff is explaining the rules of this monster and what she needs to do to avoid getting killed. Brett, do you remember what these rules are and kind of what advice Hugh Jeff gave Jay?
Well, I guess the main rule is to go try to have sex with someone as soon as possible. so it can transfer on. But
Someone who's going to bang people, hopefully.
yeah, like you want it to get as far away from you as possible. You want to be like Patty Mayonnaise brothers and sisters with everybody.
Yep.
Jeez.
That's a good reference.
Yeah, it's a good reference, guys. Point Break.
Did he say to try and have sex with as many people
No.
as possible, or just
No,
as
but that's
quickly
what you
as possible?
should do. I mean, even if you didn't have it following you. She basically, he basically says, don't go into a room, don't go anywhere if there's not more than one exit. That it's really, it moves really slow, but it's smart. What else was there? You can't see it, or no one else can see it, and
But he can still
if-
see it. Once you've caught
yeah,
it.
if she dies, it would come right back for him, and I imagine it would go all the way down the line to how it started. Whoever knows how long that is.
Yeah, he wasn't even very confident in the fact if it would avoid him now that he's passed it on. He wasn't even sure of that, so he was still pretty scared.
Can I interject something real quick? I was gonna wait till later, but it's kind of. Brittany had a hard time with what she considered a big plot hole.
Brittany,
and I
your
tried
wife.
wifey. I was trying to explain it to her, but then I didn't have any answer. Like, how does he know this?
Because I'm sure the person before that gave it
But
to him
he's-
told him.
That's what I said, but she said it was a one night stand. He thinks it was the girl he had a one night stand
Yeah,
with.
he doesn't know.
So I kind of ran out of answers.
I don't think that was very well written either, Brett. And I think this movie, if it was more true to life, like, she would have wisened up with her friends and literally did exactly what he did and explained it to someone thoroughly. But that would have just made for a more boring movie, so they didn't go that route.
Jay? You awake? I'm sorry.
What did you do?
I'm not gonna hurt you. Don't worry. You're not gonna believe me. And I need you to remember what I'm saying. Okay?
I think it has something to do with the point Stevie brought up, that it's really dreamlike. Because there's other things that happen, like that stupid game that they were playing. She was like, "Oh, I get 2 chances to guess," and she clearly only gives one guess, and then she's like, "Okay, now it's your turn." Just like kind of stuff off like that.
That's true.
I guess, but to Brett's point though, like anyone can come up with a cool concept. Like this movie does play super fast and super loose with like the whole context around it too. Because they're not being, I don't think they're like Josh was saying, they're not being super smart. So I think you have to just set the expectation that this is
they're totally stupid.
This is a
It
teenager
doesn't bother
horror
me
movie.
either. Like plot holes don't bother me. I just was
Same.
kind of like bringing it up for discussion. You know, writing is really hard. So, coming up with something original would be hard to make it perfect. So I also,
Yeah.
But they
Like-
could have had just a little line like, "She left me a note on the
Yeah.
nightstand," or something like that.
because then we kept going further. It's like, if he didn't know anything, what was his first experience with it like? I mean,
And how long has he been running from this thing?
Years.
it's just like,
how is this guy not?
That's why he plays
The
football,
only way
so
he
he
could
can
have
keep
sex
running
with
around.
someone
How's
is like chloroforming.
yeah.
So
yeah, how's this guy not had sex with anybody?
what would you guys do if you caught it?
Herpes?
You wake
Dude,
up, you have it. What's your next
say,
play?
it's like my worst nightmare. It's like my worst nightmare, man.
What's your play?
Hooker in Vegas.
It's a long
But you're
walk.
giving someone a death wish.
You have to explain it to him.
You have to make sure she's like a really busy prostitute.
Yeah, you got to find
Yeah,
a good
that's
one.
exactly. But you like literally have to explain it to him because, you know, she's gonna get whoever it is going to get killed, and it's going to come right back to you. So it
Could you just
sucks.
ping
It's going to
pong
be
it
really.
back and forth between 2 people, 2 or 3 people?
Someone who
Yeah.
lives in like Japan or something is supposed to meet
Yeah.
once a year and do the deed.
I read that the guy said that it could get on a plane.
It's interesting. A lot of plot holes. A lot to think about. A lot to unpack here.
This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you, back in the car. It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you. It can look like anyone, but there's only one of it. Sometimes I think it looks like people you love just to hurt you. I see it. I see it.
Hugh Jeff explains all that stuff to her, and there's a woman in the background who's slowly walking towards them, and she's butt naked, and he explains that that's the monster, and that's what's chasing them. And this is probably the second or third form we've seen of this monster that we may have not known about. But this is our first real look at the monster, and it just looks like a person, and it's just walking slowly towards them. And he's got her strapped to this wheelchair, and he's like, it's slow, but it's not dumb, and we gotta get out of here. And so he carts her away to their car, and he goes flying back to Jay's house, and he screeches to a halt, and Jay is like thrown out of the car, and he says like, I'm sorry or something, and she has like no clothes on, and her dumbass friends are like, what's going on over there? Like totally oblivious to what's happening and very slow to react. And then she reports, I guess it's reported to the police show up, and we get kind of like this time lapse of like the days that follow after the reporting, and there's a couple scenes that are kind of weird in there. Like, there's like a scene where even Jay's mom is like, the neighbor is like saying, "Oh, that poor girl" or something, and Jay's mom has like some weird reaction that would never, it was just so bizarre. Like, I don't know. I can't remember what she said.
Did she catch anything?
Yeah, something weird like that.
I have that in my notes. Yeah. Did she catch anything?
Yeah, it's definitely just playing in the whole theme of the movie. It's not anything you'd ever say to the mom of someone who just got frickin' drugged and found on the side of the road. Like,
yeah. And so,
yeah, that's the biggest risk. Did she find a disease that could be treated medically, not like her personal trauma and like,
yeah.
Did she get the herpes?
The real monster. And so there's a scene of Jay finally going back to school after a couple days, and she's kind of like spacing out and looking through the window, and what does she see, Stevie?
This haggard, scary old woman just walking through the quad of this university. And you can definitely tell like her mind's like not in class at all. She's like super spacey. Is like knockoff Steve Harrington in that class with her?
Steve Harrington.
Maybe.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's staring at her. Something's definitely amiss with our protagonist Jay, and that's when she sees her and she bolts from class. And the professor's super upset. Which
did that tick you off?
Excuse me.
That she was upset? I thought that happened all the time in college classes.
Are they in high school or college?
It's college. It's Oakland University.
It was more the fact that Jay ran away instead of like letting that monster be known to like a group of 30 people and like providing evidence that something messed up is
Okay, they would
happening.
have thought she was crazy,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. That wouldn't work
If
at all.
it broke through the window, I mean, and started
No, it
pushing
doesn't
people
do
around.
that. It just would
It
have
was
gone
making a
into the
beeline straight for the
building.
window.
It broke like 4 windows
She
in this
just- she doesn't
movie.
Yeah, that
know
was his
that.
go-to move. That was his go-to move.
Those are locked doors and houses and stuff. That's
He goes
why they
straight
broke
through
it.
a window.
Yeah, man.
You can go straight through a high school or a college.
Yeah, no, I was saying no. Josh
Is this
said he broke a bunch of
pre-9/11
windows. I said he said he broke a bunch of windows, and I said those were locked houses. Like she would just walk in the school building.
That's true.
Okay.
Some young gentleman held the door open for her. She tried to make her way.
Latest coat in front of a mud puddle.
I do like how this is a movie in college, though, that's not trying to be Animal House. Because, like, virtually every other movie that takes place with college kids is, like, an Animal House knockoff. You know, it's about, like, partying and going crazy in college.
That's true.
Brett Kavanaugh stuff.
These college kids are, like, pretty laid back. They don't really do anything fun, really. Like, they still hang out at their parents' house and stuff like that, so.
No, they get crazy and eat like Cheetos or whatever.
And fart in front of each other.
Watch movies from the
Literally.
1940s.
Yeah. So they're not really, like, the go-to party crowd.
Also, who even is the fourth girl? Like the one with the glasses that gets shot? Like who? Does she
Myra?
have anything? What's her characteristic besides like reading the Kindle?
The two to three other girls in this movie are very, like, low-key. They're all interchangeable. Their dialogue is really weird, and I don't know. None of them really kind of differentiate each other.
I thought they would use that to kill them off, but they didn't.
Yeah. They're weird characters. So everyone ends up spending the night at Jay's house to kind of comfort her and make her feel safe. And even
Does
Paul
creepy
is there.
Paul spend the night?
Yeah, even
Paul.
Paul is there. And that's kind of like a thing that hasn't happened. They've been friends for years, but I guess things got kind of weird between each other, so they haven't.
After he kissed both sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Paul's-
dude? No way. That's the most unrealistic part of this movie.
Oh, I know.
That's definitely the most unrealistic part of this movie, but keep going.
You trying to
Whoa,
say Eric Jacobiak can't get girls?
I was going to say the same thing. And I
No.
would say for the record, I didn't realize what Eric you're talking about.
He's meek, man. That's all I'm saying.
He's weird. So Paul's downstairs. He hasn't really spent the night over in years. So Jay gets scared or something and wants to go hang out with Paul and watch a movie. And they hear a noise. And what kind of happens here, Brett?
Well, yeah, the window breaks, and obviously they go down. Paul goes and checks it out. He's like, "There's nobody there." And then Jay goes, and it's just some naked or half naked chick who's peeing all over the floor, and she's just creeping on her, and she starts screaming. And again, nobody believes her. So where does she go? She gets in her car and drives into. Every time they drive away, they go to like the creepiest place of all time. Like I always said, I'd go to like some open field so I can see everything, but they don't. So maybe there's no fields in Detroit. So they go there, and that's where they regroup with the people, and then all of a sudden, Greg shows up. So,
Brett, you mentioned that they showed like the woman who was half naked and like peeing or something.
yeah.
And like, I thought at that point, like, oh, these are like former victims of this.
I thought it was the beach chick.
Yeah, maybe. But then like later, they pretty much prove the point that like the It Follows thing chooses a form that best suits the situation. But it's hard to imagine a situation where the like peeing herself slow naked chick is like the good one.
I think
And keep in mind,
I don't know. If you're gonna cinema sins this movie the whole time, like we've already established there's like problems with the plot. It's just trying to be creepy though. Like, you know, just peeing his pants.
Yeah.
Scary. It's spooky to pee your pants.
You're not spooky unless you pee your pants.
so this is like the fourth or fifth iteration of this monster that we see. It's a completely new person, but I want to touch on a thing that Brett just skipped over. It's just a really quick thing.
If I'm going to cinema sense this movie.
Oh yeah, I
Is this
forgot
a
the
really-
big bedroom scene. Sorry.
Yeah, the giant guy that creeps up behind
Yep, my bad.
behind Jay. This is probably my favorite scene. This is like the creepiest scene. There's this like 7-footer guy who's like
He's 7'7".
He's giant, and he's creeping in the dark behind Jay, and she's the only one that can see it, and it's just a really cool shot. And then he kind of steps up into this room, and he's like, he's massive. He's a man.
Brett, how did you know he was 7'7"? Exactly.
Because he was part of the tallest identical twins in the world, but he recently died.
There's two of these monsters walking around out there?
Well, not anymore. One of them died. But yeah, he was 7'7" so.
That poor mom.
Yeah, poor mom, right.
Respect.
Mom, is that you?
No, it's me.
Yara?
Yeah.
Don't open the door!
See? Everything's okay.
After that, yeah, they run off, and Jay kind of runs off to a schoolyard or a park by herself, and she's kind of just sitting in the middle. I think this is kind of like Brett's strategy. She's sitting out in the open in the middle of nowhere so she can see everything around her. And she sees her friends, or is it the new kid, the off-brand Steve Harrington, off in the distance?
I think it probably was Greg first, yeah.
And she doesn't know if it's the monster again or if it's one of her friends. She doesn't know, so she's kind of freaking out. And he runs up to her and kind of introduces himself and says, "What's going on? How can I help?" And her friends are there now. And so his name is Greg, and they agree to drive to his parents' lake house. I don't know the reasoning for going to the lake house. It's just farther away. They don't know what's going on, really. And Stevie, what kind of happens at the lake house here?
So
wait, they meet with they have an important scene. They meet with Hugh again, right? There's a whole part, right?
Oh,
with Hugh, Jeff?
Is that before?
Yeah.
And that's when they decide to go, because he says something like, if you drive far enough, it gives you time. So they could track down Jeff.
Well, and they go to his like hideout house too, his crack house that has like the pornos everywhere and like the jizz rags strewn about.
Yeah,
that was.
And I was reading about that type of house, that style of house that was big in like the late 1800s, 1900s, where it's like one big circle. You know, you can like walk into every room, and they said it's a type of perfect house that if you're getting chased by something like that.
Well, I like how they're supposed to be like investigating this house, and they come into the room with the jizz rags, and the first thing Paul does is like sit down and flip through a Playboy for 5 minutes while everyone else is like trying to be productive.
Classic Paul.
And so in this Playboy, thanks for bringing all this up. This is an important part. He finds a picture of them for some reason. He has this weird picture of him and a girl in this jizz rag.
A normal bookmark.
Playboy. They find context clues. He's wearing a Letterman's jacket or something, and then they go to a high school or something and look up records and see if they can find out who he is. And then they find out who he is and head to his mom's house. And they sit around. They find this guy. And, Pap, what do they talk about out in their circle?
Yeah, they sit Indian style, and they have like juice boxes or something really weird. And
there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, this is
juice boxes.
Yeah, it's so weird. And this is like Hugh Jeff's exposition dump.
Jay, listen, wherever you are, it's somewhere walking straight for you. But it is walking. If you drive far enough, you could buy yourself some time to think. Decide if you want to give it to someone else.
It's easy. You're a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
This
Paul
part
has a concerning look.
I think this just reminded me of the movie Brick, and I didn't realize that earlier, but it's kind of like
your favorite
It's kind
director.
of in the same style.
Have you guys seen?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, we've seen Brick. Yes, Josh.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, I want to rewatch it because pretty
I like
young
Brick.
when I watched it the first time.
We had a film teacher in high school that wouldn't shut up about Brick.
We called her Coach, and
We called her Coach.
was a
On
lesbian.
and
She worked at
on about
Lowe's.
Brick.
And
What the hell?
no, I'm just
She
describing
raved
her.
about Brick.
And then Josh was
Yeah,
our
she
substitute in that
loved it.
class. That's how much older he is than us. He taught us about video editing.
So I was
Molded
in
young
college-
minds.
I was in college substituting for you guys as seniors or something.
Molded young minds.
It was like we were all in that class, all of us.
Yeah.
So after that, everybody runs off to Greg's lake house because it's far away and they own it. So
So keep in mind, no one at this point like believes Jay, like at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just kind of like, let's help a girl out.
yeah, she went through something. She's going through something. She's just kind of
Yeah.
having like a nervous breakdown or something. We want to help her.
Pretty
So we'll
much.
do.
Let's see where this goes type deal. So they go out on the beach and like everything seems to be going okay. One of her friends is like, let's get in the water. And for some odd reason, Jay is like not doing a spin at all times like I would be.
Dude,
I would be looking at all directions all the time.
Swivel.
that was like my biggest thing is like she never learned to position herself to have, I mean, she's like
facing
almost
the
literally
ocean.
the only one facing the ocean. Everyone else is facing where this thing could come from. She just
gotta
doesn't
sit in the
care
corner.
at all. It's so annoying.
So
You gotta
slow,
just sit in the
creepy
corner for the
girl
rest of your life.
Yeah,
starts
right.
walking towards Jay
Yana.
and
Yar,
pulls
yar.
her hair.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
And
there's-
everyone sees her hair go, right?
off in the distance. There's this girl that nobody else can see that keeps slowly walking towards them, and it's kind of a cool sequence because Jay's talking or whatever, like just talking to herself or her friends or whatever, and this girl keeps getting closer, and nobody else is noticing it. And then it grabs her, like rips Jay's hair, and it like pulls it straight up. And I think we're supposed to feel like her friends also see her hair flip up because Jay screams.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's physical evidence in this scene, and you feel, and you get like really pumped when that happens because it's like, oh, finally, her friends will believe her or something.
Paul gets like
And
fucking tossed across the beach.
Yeah, but Greg wasn't there, which ends up being kind of important a little later. He still doesn't believe.
Yeah, true.
Steve Harrington.
Steve Harrington.
Paul tries to chuck a chair at it. He hits it and smashes the chair, so he knows that there's something there.
Paul gets
And then-
thrown back in the friend zone about 50 yards.
Great
It's
work,
awesome.
Paul.
And he also gets, I think he also gets scratched, too, because there's like physical evidence of that later on. So he's got a big old gash on his tummy.
Speaking of that, one of the things that Hugh told her was like, don't let it touch you. But I don't think it was his touch. He was just saying, like, I don't know. I thought as soon as it touched her, she was like infected, like a zombie
Should have been
or
like,
something.
don't let it hump you. Because that's really where it gets you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
But it makes sense that his knowledge of the thing would be limited, so.
Yeah, so Jay kind of freaks out here, as she should. She runs off into a shed, and there's just like a couple minutes here of them screaming in this shed. Greg finally runs up there. There's a big hole in the door, and he's like, what the hell's going on here? And Jay freaks out, runs out the back, and she steals a car. And she steals Greg's car, the only car that they have, and abandons her friends. And then what kind of happens here, Josh?
Dude, she crashes into a cornfield like right away. Breaks her arm.
Almost immediately.
Yeah, like it followed her closely enough, it would have got her like right immediately before the ambulance even got there. But I think what's important here is that she did abandon her friends like a turd. And
yeah, but also I think
and
she knows that it's only chasing her, so
yeah, and she gets this lasting injury for the rest of the movie too. Like for the rest of the movie, she has a cast, and the next scene is, I don't really want to describe it, but she decides to pass it, follows on, even when she's in the hospital.
Yeah, she ends up in the hospital, and she has a broken arm, and all of her friends finally find her, or whatever. I guess they catch up with her and follow her to the hospital, and she and Greg, who is still skeptical of what's going on here, that there's no monster, even though he's talked to Paul and everybody else that there's something definitely going on. Greg agrees behind like everybody's back to have sex with Jay as an experiment. I guess he's just doing it for I don't know if he's doing this just to get it in or if
he is, because it's clear that he doesn't believe it at all.
For sure.
Because the movie tells us 10 times that Jay's hot, so everyone wants to have sex with her.
Have you seen it?
Nothing. I'm waiting. Looking. It's been 3 days. I don't think it's coming.
You believe me, right? You're not just playing along.
No, I believe you. I just don't think it's following me. Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
And so after that, Jay gets out of the hospital, and a couple days go by, like at least 3 days go by, they haven't seen anything. And then what finally happens one night, Brett?
Jay's looking out the window and sees Greg walking outside, and it's pretty obvious it's that thing. It's it, or whatever, the entity. And then it breaks the window. So she tries to call, but it must be really late and he's not answering the phone. So she runs over there and like army dives into the window and then runs upstairs and sees someone who, I don't know if you've ever actually seen. It's Greg's mom, just creepily knocking on the door. Do you want me to keep going, or
Is it Greg's mom?
Yeah, definitely. I have like a list of
He
all that.
He says mom, but he says mom before he even opens the door. I don't know if we've even seen his mom.
I'm pretty sure it was his mom.
It's definitely his
I don't
mom.
know. This thing changes shape.
It
like,
definitely
all the
takes the
time,
form
so.
of parents at different forms. I think that's kind of a theme that's going on.
Yeah, and then somebody else want to describe the next scene?
Pap, what happens?
So it humps him to death, right? Is that this part?
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Yeah.
He dies from the quickening.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even really clear exactly what kills him, other than
It's just like kind of grinding up on him.
Yeah.
And Greg is laying on the ground. He's pale and blue, and he's clearly dead.
Not
and
into
Jay
it.
walks in. Greg is starfishing right now, and Jay walks in and sees what's happening, and she freaks out and runs out of the house.
As you would.
So the experiment clearly did not work. But now, like the first guy said, what was his name? Jeff?
Hugh Jeff?
Hugh Jeff. He wasn't sure if it would go away after you pass it on. And so Jay is still kind of scared that this thing is still after her. And it turns out she's right. This thing is still going after her.
Yeah.
Because she's kind of the end of the line now. After Greg didn't pass it on. Greg was the end of the line. He got whacked. And now Jay is now number one target again.
Sexual guilt is a perpetual cycle.
Yeah, it never ends. It never ends, Brett Kavanaugh. It never ends. And then I think it's implied here that like Jay drives off to the beach again after seeing Greg die, and then she sees a boat filled with a bunch of dudes, and it's implied here that I think she sleeps with all of them.
Yeah.
He said that she ends up not doing it, though.
Who says that?
The quote that I believe I read on IMDb that it's implied that it's implied that she had second thoughts and didn't go through with it.
No.
How so?
There's no way to know from what we saw.
Dude, go to a website called X Hamster, and half of the videos start off exactly like that, and then see what happens in the second half.
I'm just telling you what I read. It makes more sense because the thing's immediately after her again.
It's the faintest of context clues here. It's like she's just like taking off her shirt and swimming out to the boat. We don't even see her swim out to the boat. It's just, it fades to a new scene before she actually gets in the water or whatever.
At this point, I feel like she's giving up on trying to actually shed it. And she just wants to buy herself some time by banging some unsuspecting dudes. That's why I thought she did, and they got taken care of pretty quick, and is back on her. That's the way I took it.
Yeah, and so we end up back at Jay's house, and Paul is there, and he's talking to Jay, and Paul is still trying his hardest to catch this ghost STD.
God.
He is still
Paul's
super into
so
Jay.
thirsty.
Give her a break, my man.
Still so thirsty, and still... I don't know if he's trying to help at this point or if he's just so desperate, but he's still trying to get it in. And everyone hops in the car, and because Jay has another panic attack, and Jay, as they're pulling out of the car, Jay sees an old man on top of the roof with his dong hanging out that apparently only she can see. So like the monster's like still following her right behind her. And
no Vigo.
No Vigo.
Yeah. And so
edit point.
They kind of make up this plan on the fly, I guess, while they're driving the car, and they end up driving to a pool. And what's their plan at this pool, Stevie?
Dumbest shit in the world. This is the part that really lost me. Dude, this part, like, this movie was getting real cool up until, like, what were they going to do? Shock a ghost to death?
I hated
like,
this.
Come on.
It was like almost immediately. As
Jesus.
soon as I saw the appliances, I was like, this is stupid.
The rules of the ghost
I understand
were weird,
they're
right?
college kids and they're young and they're scared and this is like 1980s, 75. But like, this was a stretch. Like this part, I didn't love it.
And there's no setup for it at all. It just comes out of nowhere. Paul's just like, do you trust me? And she should have been like, no, that plan's stupid
No,
as
you
fuck.
creepy bastard.
Do you trust me? Okay, grab all of your appliances. Let's go going to the pool. What?
But that line is in Aladdin. That line is classic.
Yeah.
I think that line's in a lot of movies.
What do you mean it's classic?
Prominent in Aladdin.
Oh.
Very
What?
prominent. You must not know Aladdin. That's fine. Move on.
No. Explain it to me. Did Aladdin take
You mean the Gen X Disney
Did
movie?
he take Jasmine out to a pool, then have her jump in and he threw his TV in there? Is that what happened?
Oh my god. The pot is off the rails.
No, is that what happened, Josh?
No, he saves her for the first time. And he holds his hand out, says, do you trust me? And then he repeats the
Oh,
line.
I thought you meant like he took her to the fountain and then threw his toaster in there, plugged in with Jasmine in there. I thought that's what happened.
Edit point.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so their plan is to like electrocute this ghost for some reason. They think they still don't know how it works. They don't know how this monster works. Okay, they haven't tried killing it. They've never gotten like a real good hit on it, and 3 of them still can't see it. So their plan is to have Jay swim in the middle of this pool and attract it into the water. And then they're all going to toss in these appliances sitting around the edge of the pool to electrocute their friend and this ghost.
God!
I don't know what their plan is.
Supposed to come in the water, then she was going to swim out, and then they were going to do it.
Yeah, because it's super slow.
But it's not dumb.
It's like a penguin, slow on
Yeah.
land, fast in the water.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Hugh Jeff's advice, this ghost is not dumb. So as soon as the ghost arrives, it ends up throwing all of the appliances straight at Jay's head. And like hits her a couple times, and somehow she doesn't get electrocuted. And Paul has Greg's gun, which he took from the beach house, and he's firing at this thing that he can't see that Jay is just
Best
describing.
part of the whole movie.
His friends, too.
His friends are just describing the general area of where this ghostly figure is at, and Paul's just shooting wildly. And he ends up hitting one of the girls because he's an idiot.
Was there
Best
any
part of the
shots
whole movie.
Was there any shots he took that didn't have the monster directly between him and his friends.
And so
He never played Call of Duty or Fortnite to like get a good angle for the shot, bro.
yeah. And so the monster finally decides to get into the pool, and how does this monster finally die, Stevie?
Ah, crap. I watched this movie 3 days ago, and this part was
Gets
so
shot in the
forgettable.
head.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing they
It's
did at the
so
beach house. They shoot
bad.
it in the head.
It's not even, again, it's not set up at all. There's no reason why a shot to the head finally kills it, but then it falls in the pool and like bleeds up the pool.
Yeah, tons of blood in there.
And then she approaches it the worst way ever. She just creeps over and sticks her head over the side. I was like waiting for her to get grabbed. At that point, she probably deserved it.
There's like
That
a
would've been
2-minute
good.
shot, Brett, and I totally times 2 that on my video player. I was like, I'm not sitting around for this. Too weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so annoying. It's like, stand up and look, get a better angle.
Well, did the monster actually die here, though? Or did...
No!
We've already shot this monster in the head once, so I don't know what their plan was. But yeah, they've shot it in the head twice now at this point, and I guess it's gone for a couple days, and
Takes a couple days off.
it's recouping, and
Mental health day.
and so I guess Jay and Paul are walking down the street. I guess they're a couple now at this point. I guess it's kind of implied they're holding hands walking down the street. And it's a really slow scene, and then I guess way in the back you can see kind of a figure walking slowly towards them, and then you get a cut to black, and that's the end of the movie. You guys have any final thoughts?
Did Paul sleep with a hooker or not? That's all I want to know.
Yes, and he slept with Jay, which we skipped.
So those prostitutes didn't make it, eh? Oh yeah, he did sleep with Jay.
Yeah.
And then a prostitute.
Yeah, but Paul is so bad at sex, it was forgettable.
It didn't count.
It didn't count.
She didn't pass it on.
That wasn't good enough.
When there's torture, there's pain and wounds, physical agony, and all this distracts the mind from mental suffering so that one is tormented by the wounds until the moment of death. And the most terrible agony may not be in the wounds themselves, but in knowing for certain that within an hour, then within 10 minutes, then within half a minute, and now, at this very instant, your soul will leave your body and you will no longer be a person. And that this is certain. The worst thing is that it is certain.
So, did you guys have any final thoughts on this movie? Like, what did you take away from the ending? Did you enjoy it? Josh?
Is this where we're at?
Are we
right
doing
now?
yes or no's or like final thoughts?
Just final thoughts on the end of the movie. Like, what did you take away from the ending of... I guess it's implied that this monster is still chasing them.
See, I thought it was pretty ambiguous, but apparently from what I've been reading, it's less ambiguous than I thought. Like it could be the thing. It could just be a person walking. It's obviously like Halloween.
I thought it was ambiguous too, because this character is like wearing colorful clothes, and all these ghostly figures before were just kind of wearing white stuff, like white raggedy clothes, and this thing was wearing like a bright red.
Yeah, but herpes is for life, so that thing's gonna follow them to the rest of their lives, so definitely a monster.
They could just become swingers.
Yep, true. Very true.
Yeah. You want to go yes or no's?
Sure.
We can start east to west again. Brett?
I really like this movie, to be honest. So, there was something that bothered me a little bit. I don't watch a lot of horror movies or scary movies, but I know that you want to like have big reveals and like not foreshadow anything, but I thought I'm trying to put this together. Like when you find out at the very end that in the pool, that's her dad. That's her dad. You know, the only reference to that is a picture really quickly at the very beginning of the movie with her and her dad together. Now, Brittany noticed it. I didn't.
There's also a shot at the end. They show it again, the picture.
Yeah, at the end, exactly. And another big reveal that I didn't know until I read about it is the first time you see the actual when she's in the wheelchair and she's tied up in the garage. He like wheels her over. He's like, "Oh, there it is." That's Jeff's mom.
Oh.
Then you see her remember, it's almost kind of weird looking back. Like when she opens the door for the first time, you're supposed to be like, "Oh, that's her," but I didn't get that.
I didn't get that either. I didn't know about his dad either.
In that very first sequence, the girl calls her dad when she's getting attacked by it too. So she's probably seeing her dad as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the kid that pops through the little thing, that's the neighbor boy that was creeping. And it's just like, I like it, but I didn't think there was enough. I understand. Sorry, this is more of a final thought than a yes or no. I apologize. But other than that, I like this movie. I don't watch enough horror movies to know if it's original or not, but I thought it was really original for a low-ish budget. I thought it was really cool. My unconscious mind didn't enjoy the movie last night as I slept hardly at all.
Really?
But oh man, dude, oh man, I was a mess last night.
What was the scariest part of the movie for you?
No, it's just the concept. That's like my worst nightmare. Like what happens to Jay or whatever. That's like right up there for my worst nightmare.
How many worst nightmares do you have? Is it spiders?
So many.
Heights? Is it a thing that follows?
It's just an expression. It's just an expression.
Constant fear.
I will give this a solid yes. I enjoyed it. Good pick.
Okay. Stevie?
I will most certainly give this movie a yes. Happy it was on Netflix. It's just a really cool movie. I thought it was original, and I thought it was a movie that had very little fat on it. Even if the premise wasn't it didn't explain a lot, I thought just kind of the terror of watching this girl lose her mind was a lot of fun to watch. So definite yes. And I'm a big fan of small budget movies, so they definitely got the most out of their money. So solid.
Do you
yes.
have a scariest scene?
This movie wasn't scary. I mean, it was just if I had to pick if I had to pick a favorite scary scene, I guess it's definitely when the giant walks through the door.
Yeah. That's what it was, Mikey. That was a good call.
That was startling, I guess, but I definitely know that feeling Brett's talking about, not sleeping all night because of a scary movie. Because when I watched Hereditary for the first time, I got no sleep. So, know that feeling.
No sleep.
No sleep.
We're gonna see that. Josh?
Even though you're technically east by a foot, I suppose I'll go. This movie is rated on IMDb 6.8 stars, and I feel like that's really accurate. I'm gonna give this a no, only because I think. Jeez. Oh, if you're gonna CinemaSins the whole thing, I think that the reason though it slides to no because it's a soft no. I did enjoy watching this movie, but I just wouldn't recommend. There's several scenes in this movie with a teenage girl and. Actually, she's 21, and unlike a lot of movies that have college kids, the actress who is Maika Monroe, she's actually 21, so she's super young looking. And there's several scenes with she's having this weird, obligatory, non-sensual sex with people that are really creepy and not very fun to watch. So. It's a soft no for me.
I'll go next because I'm east. I'll give this a yes. I think it's an original idea or concept for a horror movie. I think it's shot pretty well. There's a lot of cool stylistic choices. The way the monster creeps around and follows them constantly is a really cool idea, and having it off in the distance, kind of like an Easter egg in every other scene, is really cool. I think the writing is probably the weakest part of the movie. I think the dialogue isn't that great either. But as a whole, it's a solid movie. I think it kind of pushes the boundaries, kind of like in a different way for a horror movie. It kind of touches on some things that aren't sex is in horror movies, but this is kind of like a different take on it. So it's different. So I'll give it a yes. Not the best horror movie, but it was a solid horror movie that I knew nothing about. Pap?
Yeah, this is a yes. I would say it's the best way to describe it is solid. It's a solid all-around premise. Lots of pans in the camera movement. Pretty interesting stuff. Interesting production design. Definitely could have been a better ending. But like I said, if you're watching this movie looking for plot holes, you're doing it the wrong way. That it's supposed to have that dreamlike aesthetic. And as to Josh's point about the fact that the girl looked kind of young and that's why he's giving it a no, I really don't get that. You pick Mallrats, where the plot of the movie is comedically that an underage woman sleeps with Ben Affleck, and that's okay, but a girl who looks kind of young shouldn't be having sex in a movie? I don't get that at all. But hard yes for me.
That's a stretch, Pap. Okay.
Is that not accurate?
Find a new slant. Find a new Mallrats slant.
How can you reconcile those
Pap's
two things?
accurate. They saved the day because this girl's getting like statutorily raped.
How can you reconcile those two things, Josh? That makes no sense to me.
It's a side plot of that movie, man. It's really not a main focus. And no, I think that's a problematic.
But this movie is
part
addressing
of that movie.
sex. It is the main focus of the movie. We're treating sex in like we're addressing.
I said it was disturbing because it's a young girl having like these weird, loveless sexual encounters. I don't really think that's wrong. I still stick to that point.
Yeah, we didn't really bring that up, but she's not really enjoying any of the sex that she's having in this movie. She's kind of doing it just to survive. And
well, besides Hugh, Jeff, she liked Hugh.
Jeff.
Yeah.
But then she immediately hated him. So she regretted every instance of sex she had in this movie. And I think that kind of like plays into this Catholic guilt thing.
For sure.
Honestly. She feels guilty the whole movie. She just hates what has happened, and she regrets her decision to ever have sex at all at any time in this movie, but she's doing it to survive it towards the end. So it's kind of a weird...
She even had sex with the neighbor kid in high school, and she had to like sheepishly admit that to Paul later in like a shameful way. It is very clear, like you said.
Paul didn't seem thrilled.
No.
Paul is constantly judging her throughout the entire movie until the very end after he has sex with her. Paul's a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
So, you want to take a break and then we'll get back to trivia, or should we hop into trivia first?
Hop in.
I'm ready to hop.
Let's hop.
Alright. What should be the order for this? It's just going to be Price is Right rules trivia question, so... Who was the last person?
I was the most recent, and then Josh, and then...
Yes.
Who's before?
Me. Me.
Brett with Road to Perdition.
So Stevie.
Stevie's on the schneid.
Stevie on the driver's seat.
It's been a while.
It's dangerous.
No kidding.
All right. So, what percentage of the U.S. population has an STD?
Jeez.
What percent of the Spoilers population has the STD? Oh, the U.S.
Stevie?
So,
am I going first or last?
You can go first, because you... Or you can have advantage.
I thought I was going last.
Do we punish the people? Or, I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can choose. What do you want?
You say has or has had?
Has. Currently has.
Has at any given time.
Has on their genitals right now. Swimming around.
Right now.
Okay.
So Pappy's first.
I'll go with...
Just know I'm going 1% higher than you.
15%.
Alright. Who's next?
I'm next. I'm I'm not going to go 1% higher than you. I'm going to say...
Oh, you just said you would.
3%.
What?
Josh has a lot of faith.
It doesn't follow that many people.
Josh, it follows, man. So we got 15 and 3.
Brett's like 65%.
69%.
69.
420%.
So price is right. That means you can't go over or under or what?
Can't any. Yeah, it's just any.
No, what?
Closest to.
Okay, 25%.
No, you can't go over.
Yeah, you can't go over.
Oh, I can't go over?
Yeah.
23%.
Okay.
Big shift.
Could be the difference.
Stevie,
Am I last?
you're the only one left.
Okay, so what were the answers?
15, 3, 23.
15, 3, 23.
15, 3, or 23?
I guessed 15. Josh guessed 3.
Yeah, whoever you want to spite here. You can base your decision.
Let's go.
Josh gave this movie a no.
Does HPV count as an STD?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, a ton of people have that. So let's go.
Does HPV count?
I don't know. I don't know if you're going like the original, like just like herpes.
Is mayonnaise an
and
STD?
Is it?
What do you mean the original? Like, what are you talking about? HPV?
It's like in hockey, you have the original 8 teams, and the STDs, you have
I'm
the core
talking
4.
about like growing up in school,
Like
Brett.
the original
I was
6,
taught
13 original colonies.
I was taught by every PE teacher: if you have sex, you will get herpes and your dick will fall off and you'll go to hell. That was pretty much junior high.
Dude,
like,
that was
sex
Brett's
ed.
mom that taught
Yeah, I'm
you
pretty
that.
sure. I'm pretty sure my mom never said that like that.
I never had Mrs. Kelly. I had Tasca.
I had Mrs. Kelly, and she
Seriously,
didn't
Brett's
say that.
mom.
Tasca was a high school teacher.
I know. I'm just, and I also had Mrs. Brunswick. I never had your mom as a teacher. It was a joke. Chill the fuck
dead.
out, Brett.
You're dead. I'm going to be
Let's go
following you.
Let's go with 17%.
God damn it, Stevie.
Sorry,
right.
Pap.
The winner, or the answer is 20%. The winner is Steve.
God damn it, Stevie.
There's a look
Sorry,
of shock
Pap.
on Josh's face. his faith in the chastity of America.
Wait, how many people are on this podcast right now? 5?
Whoa.
Oh!
Who's the one?
Everybody look to your left.
To your right. One person on the Skype call has AIDS.
That's the thing, though. Stevie's somewhat right, though. HPV is not, there's no test for males. So, you know, everyone could have it and you'd have no freaking idea.
I'm pretty sure every male has it.
If you don't have
Probably.
HPV, you haven't had sex.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's also like one of the easier viruses to transmit, but that's, sorry,
Why
spoilers.
is it easier to transmit?
It's just more touchy-feely than everything else, plus it's everywhere. It's literally
Can
like
we
everywhere.
get a quick interview from your mom, Brett, to fill us in on
Like the dangers of premarital sex.
yeah, and on what STD it is in this movie?
What it most resembles.
Like a,
No.
like a PSA?
That was a pretty quick no.
No.
We're going to work on that one.
A public spoilers announcement? A PSA?
All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and then Steve's going to come back and give us our second to last spookiest spoiler of the month. So let's toss it to Spoiler Man.
Spoiler Man here. Our email is podcastspoilers@gmail.com. Twitter is @spoilers_pod. Our Instagram is podcast spoilers. It's lit. Josh Hensley from the Rutabaga wrote our theme song. Our spoilers hotline is 903-776-4507. That's 903-SPOIL07. Please support this podcast by leaving us an iTunes review. To do this, 1. Search for movie spoilers. 2. Click on our orange Spoilers Bowl logo and scroll all the way to the bottom. 3. Leave us some stars and some words. Now you can check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Apple, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, subscribe on SoundCloud or iTunes.
had that so
Remix?
far.
Yeah, I know, Brett. Right?
Really
So we're doing spooky spoilers still.
Hey, it's
can pick
really
whatever you
silent in
want.
here, so rest assured that the our Audacity track should be fine. Just saying.
But you'll,
All right, you fellas ready?
but you'll,
Good luck picking
like
a movie
first-
scarier than Mikey's design.
You guys will groan when you hear this. All
is
right.
it spooky, Stevie? Is it spooky spoilers?
It is a definition of spooky spoilers.
All right.
If it's Heredity, I'm out.
I'm
out.
released. Or wait, relieved.
This movie. Are we back?
Yeah,
Yes.
and we're back.
All right. This movie is so famous in spoilers lore. It was a barometer to how good a movie was because we were all so pissed off and terrified of even talking about it. We are going to re-review Time Bandits.
No. That's not a spooky
It happened,
movie.
boys.
For real?
Time Bandits revisited. Let's do it.
Is that spooky?
No, I just hate talking about it, and it was terrible.
Stevie's
I kinda wanna
like,
revisit it.
not
divisive.
only am I going to shit on your idea of spooky spoilers, Drew, I'm going to pick a movie that you like so we can all shit on it after I stole the trivia from you. Thanks, buddy.
I've never seen it, so I'm
See?
looking forward to it.
I'm not going to be on that episode.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and
Do
I'm
you want
going
me
to
to- do you want me to
Italy for a
repick,
few
Pap?
weeks, so
What?
Do you want me to repick?
You can pick. Yeah,
We
you're
can
the
do
host.
Time Bandits revisited for another day.
You're the
Yeah, why
host.
don't we first one back from Spooky? We can do it.
All right. Well,
Just
let me
don't
pick another
pivot.
movie then.
Yeah, just do it on the air.
Fine.
Whatever
Let me
you
just
decide.
pick. Let me pick another movie
No, you
then,
can
since
pick
you're
whatever you
upset. I don't want to hurt your feelings. So let's do a movie I've never seen.
wait. Mikey has to re-cue us to be back.
Why?
And we're back.
This is good. This is good content.
This is good content, man. Why would you edit that out?
We'll keep it all in. Plus we're back.
Plus both backs.
Yeah, we have 2 backs now.
All right, we have 2 backs now. All
And
right.
bank one.
This
Keep
beast
that
with
on a
2
loop.
backs.
Two backs and one STD between us.
Let's do a movie I've never seen, but it's super famous. Let's hit Poltergeist. I've never seen that movie.
There you go.
And I think it'll be a fun one to review.
You turned my
The
frown
Poltergeist
upside down.
curse.
Aren't there 2?
This could kill Brett.
There's multiple. No, I think I can. I think I can do that. Oh God, I don't know.
Have you seen
Does-
this, Brett?
Dude, it's
I
pretty
wish,
intense.
Yeah,
Brett.
I wish you would
Spielberg
do
movie.
Exorcist. I can watch that.
It's a Spielberg movie.
You can
You'll
watch
be
The
fine.
Exorcist, but you can't watch It Follows.
I read the book, so the movie wasn't like.
How strong is
scary.
your Catholic guilt, Brett?
I don't have any. I'm very happy.
I do not have
But,
any. I am a
to answer
happy
your
man.
question,
My life is very fulfilling.
very strong. Good job, Mikey.
All right, so that was spoilers. We're gonna be spoiling.
Time
We're going
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist for sure, confirmed.
Confirmed.
Poltergeist.
No
The
time.
Poltergeist. The Poltergeist Bandits.
All right, that was spoilers.
All right, I gotta go, guys.
That was Spoilers.